Warning, this podcast includes real stories about accidents, deaths, and ghost stories. Some content may be scary or upsetting for young listeners. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. We do not intend to defame or misrepresent any business or any individuals involved. All accounts are shared respectfully and are based on publicly available sources. Welcome to Death Kiss Traveler, where the lights never fully go out and some thrills never end. I'm Marissa, your morbidly curious host, and each week we journey into the darkest corners of joy. Theme parks, traveling carnivals, haunted fairs, and decaying circus tents. These are the real stories of death, disaster, and the souls who may have never left. Today we are stepping back in time to a place few remember, the original site of Lagoon Amusement Park, nestled on the shores of Utah's Great Salt Lake. Almost 140 years ago, on the shores of the Great Salt Lake, there was a place full of laughter and light, a lakeside amusement resort called Lake Park. Here, children rode a merry-go-round, couples danced in the grand pavilions, and visitors screamed with delight as boats slid down wooden ramps, splashing into the salty waters. Today, if you visit the old shoreline, you might hear the ghostly creak of a carousel horse, or the echo of laughter carried on by the wind, echoes of the rides that once spun and splashed, but now lie lost to time. What really happened to those forgotten rides, and why do some say the spirits of Lake Park still haunt the abandoned shores? Stay with me as we uncover the eerie history of Lagoon's mysterious predecessor and the secrets buried beneath the Great Salt Lake. Only 3 days after the Mormon pioneers settled in the Salt Lake Valley in the summer of 1847, Brigham Young led an excursion to the Great Salt Lake to explore the salty inland sea. For the next 2 decades, regular groups of settlers and travelers experienced the buoyancy of swimming at various locations along the lakeshore. After the coming of the railroad in 1869, a new age in lakeside recreation was born. By the 1890s, there was at least 8 operating resorts on the east shores of the Great Salt Lake, accessible from 3 different rail spurs. Lake Park first opened in 1886 on a narrow peninsula that extended into the Great Salt Lake, just outside of Salt Lake City. It encompassed 215 acres. Railroad tycoon Simon Bamberger opened the park. Lagoon is still the only operating amusement park in Utah and is one of the oldest amusement parks in the United States. The Great Salt Lake is one of the most unique places on the planet. It is the largest saltwater lake in the Western Hemisphere and 7 times saltier than the ocean. Bamberger was well known for possessing an innate business sense, but also for his honesty and being a tireless civic worker. Bamberger was the resort's vice president and also had owned 25% interest in the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad, the actual company that built Lake Park. Unlike the modern amusement park we have today, filled with thrill rides, the original Lake Park was more natural and rustic. It was a retreat designed as a picnic, swimming, and leisure resort. However, the lake's water levels and conditions were unpredictable and prone to frequent changes. Lake Park had several attractions and activities. One of the earliest rides at Lake Park was a hand-carved, horse-drawn, or steam-powered carousel. Shoot the Chutes, a classic water ride where boats slid down a ramp into the lake, splashing into the water, a predecessor to modern log flumes. It also included rowboats and canoes that guests could rent and paddle out onto the lake, especially during calm summer evenings. There was a beautiful dance pavilion, While not a ride, this large hall was central to the park's entertainment offerings. Brass bands and orchestras provided entertainment nearly every day. The main pavilion was 3,600 square feet. Nearby, a restaurant that was 30 by 60 feet in size, and on the south side, a saloon that was equal in size to the restaurant. On the west was a pier, about 150 feet in length. Bathhouses were north and south of the pier. The railroad passengers' platform was on the east side of the large pavilion. There were also a dozen round picnic houses covered with green ivy and having tables underneath them. In the late 19th century, Lagoon served as a beloved social and cultural hub for the communities surrounding Salt Lake City, attracting families, church groups, and social clubs from across the region. At a time when organized outdoor recreational spaces were scarce, Lake Park offered a rare opportunity for people to gather in a natural setting, away from the growing urban environment. Some 53,000 guests visited the park. Admission was 50 cents. An extra $50 provided a full course meal at the resort's restaurant. The park became a favored destination for weekend picnics, community outings, and informal celebrations, providing a welcoming space where people of all ages could enjoy fresh air, swimming, and leisurely activities together. Lake Park provided swimsuit rentals as well. They were black with Lake Park written across the front. The resort provided a break from the daily routines and the hardships of the 19th century life, fostering a sense of connection and well-being among its visitors. The park's cultural significance extended beyond mere entertainment, as it helped build and sustain community ties during a period of rapid social and economic change in Utah. The original Lake Park carries a dark and haunting history, one that has gradually faded from public memory. Over time, many Utah locals have forgotten these stories, or perhaps they were never widely told in the first place. The tragedies and accidents that occurred there have quietly slipped into the background, overshadowed by the park's later successes and modern attractions. As a result, much of the park's somber past remains hidden, known only through old records, faded photographs, and a few whispered tales, leaving this chapter of its history largely forgotten and rarely discussed today. During Lagoon's early years on the Great Salt Lake, drownings were unfortunately the most frequent and tragic causes of death. While the lake's famously high salt content made it easier for swimmers to float, the water itself was far from safe. The cold temperatures, combined with unpredictable underwater currents and a treacherous, uneven lake bed filled with mud and hidden drop-offs, created hazardous conditions that caught many swimmers off guard. These dangers were especially pronounced for inexperienced swimmers, children, and those unfamiliar with the lake's unique environment. Comprehensive records of accidents and incidents at Lagoon's original Great Salt Lake are limited, and they're often incomplete. During the late 1800s, systematic record keeping, especially for accidents occurring outside of the formal amusement ride, was not standard practice, and many of the fatalities and injuries happened in natural areas like the shoreline, swimming spots, or on boats, which were not officially regulated as part of the park's managed attractions. Because of this, these tragedies were often viewed as unfortunate accidents rather than direct liabilities of the park, resulting in fewer official reports or detailed investigations. Local newspapers from the time occasionally documented some incidents, primarily through brief reports or obituaries, but these accounts are sporadic and lack the thoroughness of modern incident reporting. Additionally, there was little to no lifeguard presence or emergency rescue. In 1888, local newspaper reports of the tragic drowning of a 7-year-old boy near Lagoon's picnic area. While swimming, the boy became entangled in underwater weeds or thick mud along the lake bed. Struggling to free himself, he was overcome and unable to surface. Despite the frantic effort of bystanders who rushed to help, the child tragically drowned before rescue could be effected. One of the most wildly reported incidents from the period occurred in 1895 when a mother risked her life attempting to rescue her young son who was struggling in the water near Lake Park. Unfortunately, both mother and child drowned before rescuers arrived. During Lagoon's early days on the Great Salt Lake, paddle boats and rowboats were popular attractions, offering visitors leisurely rides across the water. These boats allowed guests to enjoy the unique experience of floating on the salty lake while taking in the natural scenery. However, the conditions on the lake were often unpredictable and challenging. Sudden changes in the weather could stir up choppy waters, and the shallow, uneven lake bed created hazards for navigating boats safely. There are multiple reports of boats overturning or capsizing, especially when caught in rough patches or when hitting submerged obstacles just below the surface. When a boat capsizes, passengers could be thrown into the cold, salty water unexpectedly, often leading to panic, injury, and drowning. Another fatal accident took place in 1891 when a small rowboat carrying 4 teenagers capsized near the lake's shore. The turbulent and shallow waters contributed to the boat overturning unexpectedly. 2 of the teens managed to swim safely to shore, but a 15-year-old girl was trapped beneath the overturned boat. Without life jackets or immediate rescue equipment, she drowned before help could arrive. In the park's early years on the Great Salt Lake Peninsula, the infrastructure was quite rudimentary and often constructed from wood. These wooden structures were frequently exposed to harsh environmental conditions. Fluctuating water levels, strong winds, storms, and the corrosive effects of the salty lake air all took a toll on their stability and durability. Because of these factors, piers and docks sometimes weakened, cracked, and outright collapsed, especially during times of heavy use. The crowds would gather to enjoy the water or board the boats. When these accidents occurred, people on the piers or docks were often thrown into the water. Many were unable to recover quickly or safely, leading to serious injuries or drownings. Falling from a collapsing pier could also result in physical trauma, broken bones, cuts from sharp wooden debris, or concussions that further hindered a victim's ability to stay afloat. During a crowded holiday weekend in 1893, the pier partially collapsed under the weight of numerous visitors. Several people fell suddenly into the water, and amidst the chaos, a 20-year-old man struck his head on debris. He was trapped underwater and drowned before rescuers could reach him. The park lacked maintenance and safety regulations in those years, and while the exact number of deaths during Lagoon's time on the Great Salt Lake Peninsula remain unknown, these documented incidents reveal a pattern of multiple drownings and accidental fatalities between the park's opening in 1886 and its relocation to Farmington around 1896. But our story does not end here. The Great Salt Lake is a hub for those seeking the unknown and the paranormal. The lake holds a much darker legacy. The natural beauty of the area masks tragedies and eerie events that give rise to chilling ghost stories, whispered by those who have dared to visit the old shoreline at night. Our first story is of the Weeping Woman by the Water, a spectral figure said to be the restless spirit of the mother who tragically drowned while trying to save her young son. According to local folklore, on quiet, foggy nights, her sorrowful cries echo across the water, a mournful cry for a loss that cannot be healed. Numerous visitors, fishermen, and late-night wanderers have reported hearing the soft sound of sobbing. sometimes accompanied by a chilling cold breeze that sweeps over the shore. Some claim to have seen a shadowy figure standing at the water's edge, cloaked in mist, her face blurred and eyes full of despair. This apparition is said to endlessly search the dark waters for her lost child, forever tethered to the place of her heartbreak. Fishermen and boaters in the area have long told stories of ghostly boats, paddle boats, and rowboats that mysteriously appear after dusk, drifting silently over the salty waters without any visible crew. These spectral vessels are often spotted gliding eerily near the old picnic and swimming areas, then disappearing suddenly as if swallowed by the lake itself. Witnesses have sometimes reported a faint haunting sound, the soft laughter of children playing, a distant brass band's music from long-gone dance nights, or the creak of oars in rhythm with an unseen captain. These phantom boats are widely believed to be echoes of the tragedies of the past, the drownings, the capsizing, and lost souls forever tied to the lake. Today, visitors of the old pier that collapsed speak of an unsettling atmosphere, an unnatural chill, and an eerie silence that falls suddenly. Some have claimed to see ghostly figures pacing near the water's edge, or glimpses of shadows moving beneath the surface, as if the souls of those lost in the accident remain trapped in a spectral limbo, caught forever in their final moments. The lake's shoreline was notoriously marshy and unstable, with mudflats that could trap the unwary. Local lore tells of strange whispers emanating from these muddy shores, soft voices calling out for help, or faint splashing sounds without any source. Hikers, campers, and fishermen have reported hearing these disembodied voices late at night, often just before a thick fog rolls in, muffling all other sound. These mysterious whispers are believed to be the spirits of those who drowned and were never recovered, their bodies lost beneath the shifting silt and salt water, their souls unable to find peace. Along with the sorrow come the playful echoes of lost children. Many have reported hearing the laughter and footsteps of children playing near the shore, even though no children are visible. These are the spirits of children who have drowned or vanished in the lake's dangerous currents. And keep an eye out for Lantern Man, a ghostly figure carrying a flickering light, set to patrol the shoreline. Some believe he's the spirit of a boatman who died trying to rescue swimmers in distress. Legends say that if you follow him, he might guide you safely back to shore. But beware, he often vanishes suddenly, leaving behind a cold chill and a sense of unease. And then there are the shadowy figures seen standing silently near the water at dusk, watching, waiting, only to vanish when approached. Are they the souls lost to the lake's unforgiving depths, or something darker, waiting just beyond the veil? And as much as I love a good ghost story, these monster tales are my absolute favorite. In 1877, a man named J.H. McNeil reported seeing a huge 75-foot creature with crocodile-like body and the head of a horse in the water of the Great Salt Lake. It was said to make fearsome bellowing noises as it charged the group of men who ran up a nearby hillside and hid until morning. The next day, when they returned to the area, they found large overturned rocks, and the ground along the shoreline was tore up. McNeil even signed an affidavit, though some skeptics suggest it was just a buffalo. These men weren't the only ones to claim that there was a monster in the lake. Eerily, Native Americans tell stories of water babies, mermaids that sounded like crying babies, luring their victims to the water only to be captured and dragged down into the depths of the lake, never to be seen again. These are not the only tales of monsters in the Great Salt Lake, and the legends and the stories are still rumored and written about today. Unfortunately, Lake Park's original location on the Great Salt Lake Peninsula presented numerous challenges that eventually made it unsuitable for the park's long-term growth and development. The natural environment around the peninsula was highly unpredictable, with shifting shorelines, fluctuating water levels, and unstable soil conditions that made it difficult to establish permanent, sturdy structures. Flooding was a frequent problem, damaging the existing facilities and threatening visitor safety. These environmental factors not only limited the types of attractions and amenities that could be built, the peninsula's geographic position made access difficult for visitors. Being located on a narrow strip of land surrounded by often marshy and uneven terrain, this limited the park's potential to attract larger crowds, especially as transportation, technology, and visitor expectations evolved over time. Another critical factor in the decision to relocate was the limited availability of fresh water. The Great Salt Lake's saline water was unsuitable for many of the park needs, such as drinking, sanitation, and the operation of new attractions that required a reliable source of clean water. As Lagoon sought to expand and modernize its facility to accommodate a growing number of visitors and new types of entertainment, access to fresh water became essential. Taking all of this together, these environmental, logistical, resource-related challenges made it clear that the park's original peninsula site could no longer support the vision for Lagoon's future. In 1896, Lagoon's owners made the strategic decision to purchase 115 acres, approximately 8 miles north, in Farmington, Utah. This move represented a significant turning point for Lagoon, marking its evolution from a rustic natural swimming resort into a modern amusement park. The Great Salt Lake shoreline has changed dramatically since the late 1800s, with large portions of the old park area now submerged underwater. The memory of Lagoon's earliest days survives primarily through historic photographs, postcards, and written records preserved in archives of local history books. The last of the park was the dancing pavilion that was located at the new Lagoon until 2000. It was relocated to the park, but was demolished to make room for a small floorless roller coaster named the Bat. The original lagoon by the Great Salt Lake vanished long ago, its laughter drowned by silence, its rides claimed by shadow and salt. But on quiet nights, if you listen closely, you can still hear the ghostly creak of the carousel, turning for no living soul. Thank you for joining me on this dark journey through Lagoon's forgotten past. Until we meet again, be aware of the echoes that haunt the breeze, and remember, some rides never stop spinning, even beyond the grave. This is Marissa with Death-Kissed Traveler. Thank you for joining me where history blurs with mystery. The past never truly leaves. It waits in silence, ready to be uncovered again. Thank you for listening to Death-Kissed Traveler. Please subscribe, comment, and share this podcast. I appreciate your support in making this podcast successful. This podcast is a dream come true of mine, and I am so excited to share it with you. This podcast is researched and written by me, Marissa Benson. All show notes and sources are found in the link below. Also produced by Sun-Kissed Traveler. Looking for a fun, stress-free vacation? Visit www.sun-kissedtraveler.com. Link in the show notes.